Trey Murphy III trade rumors? Please. The Pelicans would be insane to move him. It's not happening, and I'll explain why in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with you on this Tuesday, and we are going to address Trey Murphy III trade rumors, and there ain't nothing happening there. Then we're going to get into some injury updates from Dejounte Murray and Derik Queen as well. So we got a lot to cover in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner, so visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And don't forget, you can watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every weekday at 10:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to Locked On Pelicans. And if you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget, it's in the description. I'm going to close it in a day or two. The Locked On Pelicans fan survey. A couple of people say it's like a therapy session for them. Let it all out. This is a safe space. So let's get into the latest rumors, and that is around Trey Murphy III. And this has to do with the Golden State Warriors and their restricted free agency situation with their own wing, Jonathan Kuminga. You know, a name that we had heard kind of linked to the Pelicans at the beginning of the offseason, but truthfully, there was not a whole lot there when it came down to it in the Pelicans' interest in going and getting Jonathan Kuminga, at least not for what the Golden State Warriors have wanted. And there's a reason why that situation is still unsettled. But recently now comes from Jake Fisher, someone whose opinion and like thoughts and is a good insider. I value the intel information he gets. I find it credible. Said the Warriors would have a ton of interest in Trey Murphy. And to that I say, duh. Like, no, I'm not going to swear on here, but all of that, right? Like, of course they're interested in Trey Murphy. You're going to tell me, like, breaking news, right? They're interested in a 6'9" wing that shoots nearly 40% from three on insane volume, has defensive upside to be able to defend multiple positions, and is still scratching the surface of his potential. They want that guy? Of course. Guess what? The Golden State Warriors also probably want LeBron James, Luka Doncic. Guess what? The Pelicans want Steph Curry. They might want Chris Paul for all I know too, right? They would like LeBron James. They'd like a Luka Doncic. They'd even like Anthony Davis back, right? Everyone wants all the good players. Of course, the Golden State Warriors are interested in Trey Murphy, but you want to know what's not going to happen? The Pelicans are not going to trade Trey Murphy for Jonathan Kuminga, even if it included 3 or 4 first-round picks from the Golden State Warriors, because here's the thing. I don't think those picks are going to be that valuable at all. So beyond trade, in my opinion, is untouchable. I think that those picks aren't good. Oh, they're going to be bad when Steph Curry retires. They're the Golden State Warriors that are willing to spend and have a strong ownership group, a strong head coach. Players have shown they want to go there. Kevin Durant wanted to go there. Jimmy Butler wanted to go there. You've seen a number of other players be willing and wanting to go to the Golden State Warriors. They could retool pretty quickly. This is not like a small market team, a Washington Wizards or something else, right? That team can reload immediately, thus rendering those picks not all that valuable. So even if it's Jonathan Kuminga and 4 first-round picks, I don't think the Pelicans have an interest in trading Trey Murphy. Murphy is the best floor spacer this team has. He's the perfect complement to Zion Williamson, and this team needs more shooting. Trey is the most reliable option for that on this roster. And with the extension that he signed, just $25 million this year, it's insane value. right? Trey's not just a good player. He is a core piece of this team that the franchise is building around. He's the type of guy you build around, not trade away. And the fact that the Warriors want him, along with every other team in the league, just reinforces how valuable he is. So when you hear these rumors, don't buy into anything with it. I don't see Trey Murphy III going anywhere, let alone for Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not the biggest Jonathan Kuminga guy. Last year, 15.3 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists. For his career, he shoots 33.2% from three. He shot 30.5% last year, 32% the year before that. Trey Murphy, by contrast, last year averaged 21.2 points per game. More rebounds, more assists, while shooting 36%, which was the lowest he shot from three, but he did it in large volume of 8.3 attempts per game. Kuminga, by contrast, 3.2 attempts per game. This is not what they're doing here. Kuminga's a little bit younger, but he's about 2 years younger. It's not that much of a difference here. And look, if the Pelicans wanted to go with a full-on rebuild, maybe I could see this. Maybe I could see a trade of Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and you just dismantle the roster for picks and all of that. Build around Jeremiah Fears, Derik Queen, and just try and make that work going forward in the future, or then look for, another guy here. But here's the thing, right? I talk about this a lot on the show. We're not talking about what they should do sometimes. It's here's the situation and here's how the Pelicans are going to operate. So we're going to look at it through that lens. We all know they're not rebuilding this year. Maybe it changes at the trade deadline, but you're not going to just move Trey Murphy for picks and be like, whatever, we got picks. They could be valuable in the future when you're committed to Zion Williamson, when you're building around Zion Williamson. And there is a ridiculous Zion Williamson rumor that I read today that I'm going to address in tomorrow's show. There's just nothing to this, let alone for Jonathan Kuminga, who wants more money than Trey Murphy is going to get paid in theory and isn't as good as Trey Murphy is. Look, Kuminga does some things better, but he's not better than Trey Murphy, in my opinion. So to me, this is just not much of anything. This is the Golden State Warriors trying to will this into existence, just like they tried to will it into existence for Herb Jones earlier in the summer. And then the Pelicans signed Herb Jones to an extension. Worth noting as well, nothing about what the Pelicans done outside of maybe Derik Queen and some of the Troy Weaver looking moves have really leaked. The Jordan Poole trade for CJ McCollum, that didn't leak at all. That kind of came out of nowhere and not blindsided, but kind of caught everyone by surprise. If they wanted Kuminga, this would have been done by now. A deal would have been done by now, but the Golden State Warriors, frankly, are asking for far too much for Kuminga, who's just going to take the qualifying offer potentially and just leave in a year because he doesn't need to play ball with the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors gave him DNPs in the playoffs. If you're going to trade Trey Murphy for a guy that was getting DNPs in the playoffs or a Warriors team that was not particularly good, look, you can hate some of the moves that Joe Dumars has made. You cannot trust Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars at all. They're not doing that. No one is going to do that kind of trade, and I'd like to say no one would be that dumb for it. So I just don't see this happening. Look, that ends up happening. We're going to have the angry cast of all angry casts here on Locked On Pelicans. I don't see it happening in any sort of capacity. Trey Murphy is beloved not only by the fans, but by this organization as well. He does all the right things. He puts in the work in the offseason. He's just a fun dude, super engaging. You would easily make him the centerpiece of a team and fans would eat it up here. And I think when you have someone like that, this would feel like a betrayal of the fan base. Maybe not on the level of the Luka Doncic from the Mavs to the Lakers trade, but it would feel like an absolute betrayal of the fan base at a time where you probably can't do that. And that alone is going to keep Trey Murphy III here. He's in store for a big season. He's going to have a more outsized role than he's ever had, at least at the beginning of the year. He's shown a lot of improvement in his game. Now he needs to create a little bit more for himself and for others, but if he can do that, and he's shown flashes of it, 3.5 assists per game last year is not nothing. If he can do a little bit more of that, this is a very special player that can, he's not a good defender just yet, but he has shown the ability and has the tools to reach a good, be a plus defender level. If he does that, this is a very incredible player, let alone he and Herb Jones are so close and friends that you can't break that up. I would hate it. I know you would hate it too. So sorry, Warriors fans, This is not a thing that's going to be happening here, and I wouldn't read too much into this or believe it in any sort of capacity whatsoever. So, sorry, they're not trading Trey, not for 3 first-round picks or anything like that. Rebuilding would be different, but they're not doing that. The Derik Queen trade said as much. So coming up next, we'll get to Derik Queen in the third segment here, but I want to talk about Dejounte Murray and his injury recovery coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans, because have you seen him on social media? That is highly encouraging. And that could be a big swing and game changer for New Orleans next season. I'll explain why. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. So think about the last time you had an urgent need. Maybe it was for a plumber, a service provider, and if the first person didn't answer, did you wait? No, you didn't. You just called someone else and gave them your business here. So that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. The best feature, the game-changing feature, is the shared inbox. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. What about after hours? No one's there. Well, you've got an AI agent that can handle after hours calls. It can answer common questions, capture leads, so you're never missing a customer. And OpenPhone is offering listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have an existing number with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no additional charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And don't forget, watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. For your second listen, it's Locked On Saints. No QB1 named just yet. Ross Jackson's going to cover the QB battle along with all the roster cutdowns that just happened the other day over at the Locked On Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't forget, I got to pull up the info here. Let me grab that really quickly. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. And everyone who completes a survey is going to be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. That's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. So let's look at, it's the off season. We're getting into social media. This is what we got to do here. But this one actually is social media that I want to look at. And it's on currently Dejounte Murray's Instagram, a video of him dunking and looking particularly good. He seems to feel really confident in his ability to come back from the Achilles injury that he suffered in late January, early February here. And he is looking really good. You know, truthfully, Achilles are the type of injury that I do think take about 12 months to 18 months, 2 years for you to really feel like yourself. And the everydayers have already heard me kind of break this down earlier in the offseason of what like the normal recovery timeline looks like. But here's the thing, Murray might actually be ahead of schedule. He's shown to kind of have that like freak Wolverine healing factor to him where he just recovers from injuries quicker than like you would really expect. And I think you're seeing a little bit of the same things here. You know, in this video, you see him running, jumping, putting down a reverse alley-oop, and then landing. And that might not be like that impressive to you when you watch it. It's not like he launched down a dunk or something like that. But his Achilles injury was to his right foot. And when you see him jump, he kind of jumps off 2 feet, but you can see the majority of his weight is coming off of the right foot. And then when he lands, he comes down on both. This is actually a bigger step than you think. Coming back from these kind of injuries is a lot about how the player in the body feels, not something that you can necessarily quantify or a doctor can see. This really goes back to, Derrick Rose and even Brandon Ingram too, where some of these guys like are medically cleared to play, but it just doesn't feel right, or there's a lack of confidence or psychological component to running, jumping, landing on something. Derrick Rose didn't come back from those injuries in Chicago in the way that he wanted because it just didn't feel right. Like something felt wrong when he would jump or land. And even though he was medically cleared to play, he was like, something's off here and I don't feel comfortable just yet. We went through this with Brandon Ingram, right? He'd be medically cleared to play and then would just be like, no, I don't feel right. And, it's their body. Like, we don't know it better than these players. So that's something that you need to factor in. But Murray is looking really good here. And the fact that he's jumping and doing all of that, look, it's not like an explosive jump or anything like that, but he clearly feels kind of confident in where he is in that injury recovery. And that's the most encouraging sign to me. That means there's likely not going to be there could be setbacks, but there's not that kind of mental thing of like, when he's ready to go, he's going to be ready to go. And I'm excited for that because Murray coming back can be one of the biggest swing things for the team this season. And it's instantly going to address, and I'm going to sneeze here, one of the most important areas that they need to address that we've talked about on the show, clutch offense. Murray is a proven clutch scorer. That's one of the reasons why they brought him in a year ago, was to add a guy that can just kind of get his shot or run an offense late in games when you need to get a bucket. We know that the Pelicans' stats in the clutch are atrocious, right? Zion has done well in the clutch, but literally nobody else has. Jordan Poole has not been a good clutch player. Murray, on the other hand, at least has done it. Now, when you look at the clutch data on NBA.com, there's a lot of noise in that data. So you've got to be a little bit careful of reading too much into it. But Murray's got a decent enough track record, at least in volume. He can go and get a clutch bucket, right? The Pelicans have been bottom 5 in clutch for the past 3-4 years here. Having a lead guard who can create a shot late or create for others is massively important to this team. Whether it's orchestrating a pick and roll, being a secondary playmaker, whatever it is he needs to do, he can do that. And he's also not scared to take shots in late game situations. So getting Murray back and just upgrading yourself in the clutch, this is the easiest way to add 5+ wins to the Pelicans. That year they won 49 games, didn't win a game trailing going into the fourth quarter. Imagine if you got 5 clutch victories. That puts you at 54 wins that season. That would have been the 4th seed, I think. Would have been a game changer for this franchise. And Murray coming back can do that. Also, the depth is a little bit unproven on this Pelicans team right now. So getting Murray back, likely on a minutes restriction coming in off the bench, sooner rather than later can help stabilize that second unit a little bit as well. And so just having him back sooner rather than later would be great. We'd be looking at him returning in January, February, but could this be, late January? Could it be a late December return, an early January return? I don't think he's going to be ready to start the year, but maybe he is. Again, watching him jump in that video and the confidence that he has in his body is one of the biggest things to me. Now, he's still got to do, it doesn't look like he's doing contact just yet. Not playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, ramping up to 5-on-5. But the conditioning certainly seems like it's going to be there for Murray. The mentality is going to be there. And also, he went through, and we talked about it on the show, a lot of stuff. Just a lot of stuff last year. If that's not happening this coming year, does that just make him play a little bit better? Because when he did play, was not particularly good for New Orleans. But between all of the injuries, between the stuff with his mom and everything else, that's a lot to take on. Of course he's not going to have a good season. That would have been hard for anyone to function, let alone a professional athlete dealing with just constant thing after thing. So this is a year where if he can come back sooner rather than later, help the team in the clutch, just find ways to contribute even in a minimal role or a minutes restriction, he's going to really help improve this team and is the type of thing that could be just a massive swing for New Orleans. This could be the difference between getting the 6th seed on the high end or being in the play-in tournament, right? That's the difference that this could make. It could also mean the difference between missing the playoffs and just simply getting into the play-in tournament. And seeing him move as well as he is moving right now, about 7 or so months removed from surgery, right around there, very encouraging to see. Not expected whatsoever, but really bodes well for what he's going to be capable of doing in the future. And dude's just a freak. And if he can help the defense a little bit too, that's just lagniappe. Hoping for good things for Murray. Really want to see him out there on the court and trying to help this team reach the full potential, because we just did not get to see that at all last season. So coming up next, there's another player who's injured. It's Derik Queen. But we got a bit of an update on that from Joe Dumars in what I thought was very funny. Let's break that down. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. It's here, August 26th, today, when you're most likely listening to this. FanDuel Futures Day. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. So today, just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, now's your moment. I like Lamar Jackson for MVP, throwing my wager in today. I like the Eagles to repeat and win the Super Bowl right now. I'm going to parlay them together for an even bigger payout when it happens. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is just today, one day only, 24 hours over at FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. For your second listen, it's the Locked On NBA podcast. There's no offseason in the association. Locked On NBA is just covering all the biggest stories, whether it's rumors, contract negotiations, everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget about the Locked On Pelicans fan survey. I'm going to close it tomorrow, probably. We got a couple hundred responses. Someone wrote a 900+ word answer to one of the questions. They needed to get that off their chest. Totally okay. I love that. We're collecting all the data. We're going to use it in shows next week. Whatever it is, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything with what you're feeling around the team. So let's get into the recovery of rookie Derik Queen. Hurt his hand in Summer League, but here's the really encouraging thing. I don't know if he's going to miss too much time once he's back healthy and can just do what he needs to do. Joe Dumars, when he was on the Saints broadcast on Saturday, was talking about Derik Queen and was like, yeah, basically your hand doesn't work, but guess what? Your legs do. So start conditioning, start running, and be ready to go. Which I kind of love that attitude of you're injured. So what? Figure out a way to make it all work. So by running, by staying conditioning, because look, he will be behind the 8 ball just a little bit. This is where he can now step in and at least be somewhat in game shape in a way that he wasn't before, right? So he needs to be in shape coming into training camp. For a player like Derik Queen, this is actually rather important. There are some laziness qualities to him, let's say, right? At times at Maryland, you could see he didn't look fully in shape or look like he cared. This is going to be his first big test. One of the things we've talked about a lot over the years here on Locked On Pelicans, the everydayers kind of maybe can guess where I'm going to go with this, is how do you face adversity? Because this team has not done a good job of facing adversity when these type of situations arise. Well, Derik Queen is looking adversity right in the face to start his career. Are you going to make the most of it? Or are you just going to chill, lay back, and take it easy? Because if you're doing that, you're going to be out of shape. You're not going to be in the rotation. And basically, there goes your rookie year under head coach Willie Green, right? We can kind of see how this might go. But if you come in insane shape, and use this time to just really focus on the conditioning, your body, all of those things, that can really set you up for lasting success. Realizing, hey, I can do this every off season. I can stay in shape. And building that discipline, right? That's what it is. It's the consistency, just showing up day in, day out, even when you don't want to do it. Even on those days when you're tired or feel like you have nothing in you. Look, Derik Queen, your legs still work, as Joe Dumars said. So get out there, run, do what you need to do to, get your body ready and be in the best shape possible coming in, so that when you can handle a basketball, when you can do contact drills, you're not winded and not making the most of those reps. as I said, in yesterday's show, training camp is really important, particularly for these young guys. You're going to get maybe max 30 practices during the NBA season. An 82-game season, you get like 30 practices max. You got to make the most of these reps that you get in training camp right now, because that's where a lot of this is earned and built, and you need it all right now. So Derik Queen, not taking it easy, not just being like, well, my hand and I can't do anything, is of the utmost importance, so that the second he's cleared and ready to go, he's ready to go. And it's not, you're struggling through a rep, you're struggling through practices because you can't catch your breath, because you're out of shape. This is an important thing. Be ready to go to make the most of the reps, because he's likely going to miss some too. So that's not what you want to see from him at all. His rookie year is really important. There's, unfortunately, not his fault, but for better or worse, an absolute ton of pressure placed on him because of the trade for Derik that they made on draft night for Derik Queen. Again, he didn't ask for that, but this has been put on him, and it is a thing for better or worse. And he's going to have to deal with this. So he needs to be ready to live up to these expectations that have been put on him. And I definitely think he's capable of doing it, right? All of these guys are capable of doing it. It's how do you face the adversity here? And I think for Derik Queen, look, he's got a good, healthy sense of self, let's call it. They need him to be ready to go. I like that Joe Dumars is kind of interacting with these guys on an individual level and giving them some marching orders. We talked about it yesterday with Zion Williamson, giving Zion Williamson his marching orders. Now giving Derik Queen some marching orders too. I dig that. Your legs still work. Go and run. Work on the cardio, work on the conditioning. It just kind of makes me laugh. You didn't hurt your legs, so go and do the thing. Something about it just is funny to me. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. Tomorrow, I'm going to rip a couple of people about this Zion thing that I saw, and I'm actually very much looking forward to doing the show. You're not going to want to miss tomorrow's episode of Locked On Pelicans at all. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. See y'all tomorrow.